sont dits partout.
What's up, you scruffy-looking nerf herders? Um, it's your boy. It's your boy. I'm sorry. It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal
He's already out of
Transmissions.
breath.
Yeah, it threw me off. That threw me off. Even though I practiced it, it still threw me off. Yeah, but it's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back with another stream for you guys, and just and really fortuitously, the day of our live stream happened to fall on Star Wars Day, May the 4th.
Yeah.
So yeah, tonight, I mean, if you didn't check it out, prior, we did drop a special, May the 4th episode on the main podcast, and tonight we're doing again another kind of tie-in, particularly with the movie review, because we're gonna what is it? Our theme this month is East versus West, but it just happened to line up perfectly with two of the movies, which is Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, and The Hidden Fortress.
Yeah, it's funny how initially, because this theme was planned for December,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of fell through, and we kept kind of like pushing it back, and we ended up choosing to say, well, you know what, let's just do it for May, and kind of not thinking about it, and everything just kind of fell into place for this very, as Andy said, it just everything kind of came together for
Right. It's the
working
will
for
of the
May
Force.
the 4th.
It's the will of the Force.
Yeah, the will of the Force, definitely, and. We got a new month, we got a new theme, bunch of new movies that we're going to be discussing, which I'm super excited about. I'm definitely excited about tonight's movies. Hidden Fortress, the movie that inspired George Lucas in his creation of Star Wars. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
one of them, and so it just seemed very fitting today. And the episode that we did drop earlier, it's kind of wasn't necessarily a very structured one, but it was more about just kind of general Star Wars enjoyment that we all have. We
Mm-hmm.
talked a little bit about our favorite movies, a little bit about our favorite characters, some of the things going on in Star Wars that we like, that we don't like, what Star Wars should do moving forward, stuff like that. So I think you'll really enjoy it, and I had a lot of fun recording with Andy and our guest. Our guest is going to be joining us for the live stream, the movie review tonight, and it's I'm super excited for today. Star Wars is one of my favorite things. I love the games. I love the shows. I love the movies. The comics, the books. I mean, I really like it all. It's great.
Yeah. Star Wars is one of the it's gone beyond movies, and it's very much a culture.
Yeah.
And even if if you never actually even seen like any of like the episodes, I mean episodes in terms of movies, or any of like the TV shows, you're still aware of it. I mean, you're still aware of like kind of like the tropes or like the memes of like Luke, I am your father, or use the Force, or I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
So
It's a trap.
yeah, it's a trap.
Admiral Akbar, that guy
I
got
know.
he got hosed in the new trilogy.
Yeah, it's
That
so
guy
funny
just
because he literally only had like 4 minutes of screen time total in Return of the Jedi, but he's a fan favorite, like
I
instant
love
classic.
Admiral Akbar.
It's justice for Admiral Akbar. You know what I'm saying?
I think I was it was kind of something I was hoping to have for the episode that we dropped today.
Hmm.
I know I have them here somewhere in my house. I have like all my Star Wars figurines. I was gonna kind of have a few of them out for display, and I have Admiral Akbar because I I love that guy.
I know, right? And so yeah, it's so funny. Like again, like only 4 minutes of I mean, around, I don't know if it's exact, but like something like 4 minutes of screen time only in Return of the Jedi, and he's like this weird squid looking thing, but everybody loves that guy.
Yeah, I would love to see like maybe something more with like Admiral Akbar. I think that would be kind of fun, like a like maybe a small like mini series with him and like what he did for like the Republic and stuff like that. Because I think his story is probably pretty interesting.
Yeah, right. Because I think technology has come to the point where they did Aquaman, which is supposed to be like all underwater, so I'm sure they can do something like that for the Mon Calamari species, which
Yeah.
Admiral Akbar is a part of or is.
One.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I could see, yeah, it'd be really interesting if they did like an Admiral Akbar like little mini series. Yeah, but I say miniseries, but I picture something. I think for a lot of people, people of a certain age demographic think of something different because when I think of miniseries, I think like a 10 episode thing. But now, like regular TV series are 10 episodes, and so
Yeah, it's
it's a little
kind of weird.
confusing.
Yeah, it's very confusing how it all works now. But especially now, like you think about it, like Boba Fett was such a fan favorite too. Like, and that was one of the characters I was always like, I didn't get it, like why he was so popular because we really don't see him do much of anything.
Hmm.
At least in the original trilogy. So I was like, okay, but then like we finally got a chance to see a little bit more of um, uh, through the Mandalorian series, like how awesome the guy really is. And we, obviously we get a little bit of that too with the prequel trilogy with the with Jango Fett and how he operated, as well as the clones, and then you have but there is a lot of like of the comics and like other
Right, and I think that's where the kind of like cult following for Boba Fett happened is because yeah, even though he had a very enigmatic presence, and he just he was a very compelling character because like he didn't show his face, but he was a man of action. You could tell that he was a man of action, just the way
oh
that kind of
clearly, yeah.
yeah, just the way that he kind of like strode across the scene. He's a man of mystery, and I think one of the greatest what is it? One of the greatest indicators of his kind of like the idea of this high value person was he on Jabba's barge he was able to like flirt and seduce like the concubines aboard Jabba's pleasure barge with his helmet still on, and you could see
Yeah.
like in like the female alien's eyes, like man, like she was like eye fucking him, it's like
Oh yeah.
so
Well, and we kind of like we get like because you brought this up, and I can't think of anyone else that has ever brought this up or like this question. Because there's a quick moment in Empire Strikes Back, which is I still think the greatest of the Star Wars movie that are out there. But we get this moment like where Boba Fett is hired, and he's kind of so it's like don't melt people this time, or something to that
yeah,
effect.
like no disintegrations.
No
Vader, like
disintegration.
yeah, because what is it? The Empire, basically contracts out the search for Princess Leia, Han Solo, and Luke Skywalker.
Right.
And yeah,
And
and he has like and Vader's assembled all of like these galaxy renowned bounty hunters, and then there's Boba Fett, but it's only to Boba Fett that he gives like this very specific instruction to, where he says no disintegrations.
yeah, and in A New Hope, we when Uncle Ben and Aunt Maru are killed, they're not just like dead bodies or whatever. Like they
Yeah,
are
they're not just
killed.
shot; they're cooked.
Yeah, which is like, was Boba Fett there on Tatooine? Like, did he like disintegrate? Like, and looking for like Luke Skywalker? Did they just fucking melt those two to death? Like, it just it I thought that was a very interesting theory, and I think there's something there,
Yeah.
Andy.
Well, I wish I could take credit for that, but I honestly heard from somebody else.
Oh, you heard it
Um,
from somebody else. Okay,
yeah,
I didn't.
I don't remember quite who I heard it from, but yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to steal like I don't want to be accused of idea theft or whatever. But yeah,
Well,
I heard this theory from somebody else. I don't remember. It was probably in a video I found on YouTube. But yeah, it was very
yeah,
interesting. It was very like the case that this person puts out that I can remember is that yeah, it was very weird that Boba out of all of the bounty hunters, Vader gives this one specific instruction to, and it's to him. It's like no
yeah,
disintegrations, but it's like but nowhere in the Star Wars universe thus far, from Episode 4 to Empire, do we see any type of disintegration?
right.
And like or like the only and but don't like any other I should say, other besides Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. There's no other
No,
and so it's like he's the only one that gets the instruction, and Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are the only ones to have been disintegrated. And when we find out in Empire and Return of the Jedi, is that Boba Fett is connected to Jabba the Hutt, who lives
right.
on Tatooine, where Luke Skywalker is from, where Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru live. So
It makes a lot of
it
sense, and I
makes
wonder if it
yeah,
was the Star Wars Theory channel that makes that sounds like something he probably would have come up with.
maybe yeah no, but I think it was before like the the kind of solidification of channels. I
Oh,
think
so
this was
we're going way back.
yeah. So this is a video that was posted way back, way before like as YouTube as we know it today.
Oh, like
Um,
the old YouTube.
yeah. So it was just yeah. So it's like people just like coming, putting out like their own kind of theories and whatnot, and yeah, and I
Well, if you're out there and watching, the person that came up with that theory, yeah, let us know because we want to give you credit.
yeah, yeah.
To,
It's as a fellow artist, I get the importance of being properly credited, and yeah, if I and I I'm gonna say I always credit who people I never try and pass brilliance that's not my own.
right.
So yeah, if you if you if you're still doing your channel and you come across this, yes, if you want proper credit, please reach out and we will properly credit you.
Oh yes, sir. And but yeah, it's just this is a great day. Like this is a day where we get to celebrate our what I call our modern day mythology. We're not you know looking at Zeus and Apollo and Hercules and all that stuff. I mean, although uh, that's still pretty great too. But this is the story of Luke and Leia and Darth Vader and Obi Wan Kenobi. Like these are our mythological heroes in a sense, and
Hmm.
this the whole story and it's not just the Skywalker saga. It's all like the surrounding stories and one of my favorite games is Knights of the Old Republic, and that's 4,000 years before any of the events of the movies take place. And so that's something completely different, and there's all these great stories and great characters.
Hmm.
And this is a day where we can, yeah, I mean, I'm always like enjoying Star Wars, but like this is like a day specifically that we can enjoy all that stuff and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, we for a while, we were kind of, in the dark times,
Yeah,
particularly when in regards to Star Wars, the kind of the direction that Star Wars went under, under the leadership of Kathleen Kennedy, and it's just, you can tell like what is successful or who's doing something right by, the reaction or like the support of the fans, and right now, like the toy sales that the fans are clamoring for are legacy characters and Mandalorian stuff.
bingo.
That's the thing that the fans are clamoring for. They're not, they're, it's kind of a sad joke. There's some Star Wars channels out there, but there's this one guy. I think it was World Class Bullshitters who like chronicled like the shelves just full, or like the bargain bins full of Rose Tico action figures. I think in one video he went and he took all the Rose Tico figures and like stacked them like into like a tower of Rose Tico figurines.
I feel
And it's
you know
just like
I feel so bad for that actress because
I
she was
did,
treated so horribly.
yeah,
But God, I mean, it's of course no one's gonna outside of like collectors. It's like, well, I at least want to have like the all of them. Like you got to have it, but
yeah, like
nobody.
the really like spurgy kind of collectors where they're like, oh, I have to have everything Star Wars. It doesn't matter, how good or bad it is. I have to have it because it has like the branding Star Wars on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, who's? I want to know the kids play with a Rose Tico action figure.
I know. Like, I want to go to like. I mean, when everything opens up again. I want to go to a Comic Con and I want to go to a Star Wars Day celebration and I want to see someone dressed as Rose Tico. I just want to see it. You know. it'll be like Where's Waldo? I want to at least see one.
And not to make fun of them, but it's like, okay, obviously you like Rose Tico.
Mm-hmm.
Explain, please.
I know.
I want to
Please, yeah. Do
sell
the Denzel line from Philadelphia is like, pretend I'm 5 years old. Make it, like explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just like I want to. Maybe I'm missing something. So
Yeah,
you
like
tell me.
yeah, tell me what I'm missing. Tell me what I'm missing.
And same thing, like yes, we shit on the Last Jedi and all that, but I'm sure there's someone out there that really likes it. I would be very curious. Someone who genuinely likes it, give me your case. Like maybe I'm missing something. Hell, it took 20 years for me to actually think at least give some extra thought to like the Phantom Menace. Dave Filoni, who
Yeah.
sold me on that. I mean, so it's doable. I'm not completely closed minded to like maybe I'm missing something that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in my like again, like not my original idea, but like the reordered watching order for the episodes, like at least 1 to 6.
Yeah,
Um,
I, I like it.
The order is 4, 5, and then back to the prequels. And I used to say, yeah, you could omit the first one if you wanted to, but
I can't do
after, yeah, but now I can't do that. Now I have to include it because of the, what is it, the revelation that Dave Filoni offered to like the importance of Episode 1 and like why it was so important, why Qui-Gon Jinn was so important, why like why that last duel between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul is so important.
Yeah,
And just
and
it's just
if you're a Star Wars fan and you haven't listened to any of Dave Filoni's like interviews and stuff, listen to what that guy has to say. He is a true Lucas acolyte. Like he really cares about the franchise of Star Wars and wants to make it great.
he is the true successor to Lucas. Okay, just
Yeah,
I mean
and he didn't have to trust Steven
he was it
Spielberg to get that job.
he worked under George Lucas during like the first few or like I think like the entirety of the Clone Wars series.
Yeah, well, and that's and like what him and like Favreau are doing together is it's just and they it's not just them. They actually brought George Lucas in to help them,
Yeah, smart.
which is like why wouldn't they're not like Kathleen Kennedy and like all that group who's like, oh, George Lucas gave us all these great notes. Well, let's put those in a we're gonna
Yeah,
put those
we're gonna file these in the
here.
we're gonna file these in the circular filing cabinet.
They're treating him like Ringo Starr. It's like, oh, we're gonna put your song right here,
Yeah,
here on the fridge.
refrigerator. Oh, good job there, Ringo. You wrote a song.
Yeah, it's It's just like, wow, and the level of just disrespect that
Yeah,
was.
condescension and
I
disrespect.
mean,
Ugh.
if I was George Lucas, like, oh, I get to cry into my billions of dollars, it's like, but it's, um, but at the same time, it's like you got to treat the guy with respect. And Dave Filoni and John Favreau have done that, and they've brought him in to help them with Mandalorian, and like where he's able to like share his vision and thoughts. And I think they've kind of gone along with what George Lucas is like. Yeah, we should try this or that. Sounds great to me, George.
Yeah,
And
no, the season finale of Mandalorian,
wow.
season two, anyways. That was epic. I mean, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it, but we get the Luke Skywalker we deserve.
Yeah,
You know,
not that garbage heap from like the
yeah,
Last
not
Jedi.
not yeah, not the Jake Skywalker from Last
Yeah,
Jedi, but we get the true fucking badass motherfucker, Luke Skywalker, that we've been waiting to see since Return of the Jedi.
well, yeah, and
Powerful at his prime. Just mowing down dark troopers like they're nothing.
well, yeah, and it's like, uh, it's funny because Mark Hamill, I know, hated what they did to his character in the Last Jedi, and
Hmm.
he talked a lot of shit up until like a certain point. I don't know if they like threatened him legally or something like that,
Well, I think yeah,
but
I'm
they,
sure they like yeah, I'm sure it's something like after like the seventh or so interview where he's talking about like yeah, I fundamentally disagreed with what he was doing. It's like hey, knock that up, or we're gonna ask them for the money back.
yeah,
I'm sure a conversation like that happened.
and then it's like, and then after that, like you didn't hear anything about that ever again. But
Hmm.
it's like he hated the character, and we all hated him too. Like it's just
Hmm.
like, what? This is not Luke Skywalker at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just like the the arrogance of like these of like directors like Ryan Johnson, where again like they have no respect for the fans, they have no respect for um they have no respect for the significance of the character, like not just like in terms of like telling a story, but just like culturally, or
Yeah.
and so that's why he was such a fucking troll to everybody. He was saying, like, putting up pictures with him holding a sticker that says like your Snoke theory sucks.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
And just
That's stuff like that. It's like, dude, you're a dick. And
yeah,
I'm
it's just
not. And
like
I'm not. And I'm not anti Ryan Johnson because I actually like some of his movies. They're really good.
yeah, like
But then,
when he plays his strengths, yes, I've enjoyed some of his work. Like shit, even with all the crappy spells in that latest one that he did, Knives Out, I enjoyed that movie. It was very much um what was it? An homage to like the Agatha Christie character.
yeah, it definitely had that feel to it.
Yeah, the murder mystery and like like the crazy stupid smart detective. It's like yeah, that was an homage to, like an Agatha Christie like story, and like but and he pulled it off well. And I give credit where credit's due. He pulled it off well. But you don't know shit about Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh boy. But yeah, it's but yeah, no, I highly recommend give the interviews with Dave Filoni a listen to because that guy really does care about Star Wars. Like I didn't think anyone could get me to like kind of relook at Phantom Menace and actually like respect it,
Hmm.
but he did. And now it's like wow. And now once he shared that, once I listened to that interview, I went back and I rewatched the movie. I was like, I see what he's doing. I see what he's seeing now. It's like, oh, that okay. It's yes. Is it a flawed movie? Absolutely.
Hmm.
And if you listen to like the actors, like this is right around the time where CGI was really kind of like starting out, and there was a lot of green screen stuff. And for actors like Liam Neeson, who's been around for forever, Ewan McGregor was kind of like still fairly new in his career.
Right. He was
Um,
still. I think he was still riding high a bit. After Train Spotting.
right, and but for them, it was a little bit difficult because they didn't really kind of because normally like when you're doing a movie like you play off of cues and like kind of
Right,
like
like physical sets, but like but now it's nothing but like green or blue screen, which is funny
right,
because now it's like it's weird because George Lucas is always proven right, but not in the moment, but later down the line because
right.
now a lot of shows were doing that, like the completely like virtual environment.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at like some of the Marvel stuff, like that's they've perfected it.
Right, exactly. So it's like in a weird way, George Lucas is ahead of the was ahead of the game, but it's just like he's like a lot of great artists. They're not appreciated in their time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but I feel for the actors too because they're all great actors, but it's
hmm
just they had I think they had some difficulties with because I mean, that was still very new when
Right,
that
right, right.
happened,
Yeah. Again,
and
pioneering, and so yeah, it must have been very awkward for them. Kind of like okay, react to like this big droid coming towards you, but there's no real droid there, so it's like okay. But
right,
interestingly enough, speaking of Liam Neeson, he actually did an interview after he did the first Lion Witch and the Wardrobe movie,
yeah.
and he was talking about how that kind of acting where it's like almost like a completely virtual environment. That's the next big challenge for actors.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you have to. It's you really like because I would think like some of our favorite like classical actors, like some of our favorite dead actors, like a Cary Grant or Humphrey Bogart, like they would not function very well in this type of environment.
No, exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, even what was it? Edward James Olmos. When he did Battlestar Galactica, he said like, I don't want to do any scenes with where you guys gonna put like some digital, uh, you know, put someone in digitally, or I don't want to stand, do a scene and then you guys stick like some like 10 foot tall like lizard or something. So like in
Right.
his contract, he specifically like, I only want to do scenes with human beings,
Yeah,
human
and
beings in terms of like the actors, and it worked out because like they did like the whole like human form Cylons, so he
you
never had to like do a scene where he was like trying to react to like the CGI Centurions.
right. Well, and that's the thing is like that was the right way to go with that show because I think it made it the remake of that with like you never knew who the Cylons were,
hmm
which is made it
Right,
much
but
more.
yeah, so like yeah, Edward James almost like I think if he tried to do like a Star Wars movie now, or or a Marvel movie, I think um, it would have been a bad fit for him as an actor. But
Yeah,
there again, like, but Liam Neeson was right. This new technology, it's the new frontier. It's the next challenge for actors because like a lot because they have how they say that uh, acting is reacting, but now like you have to supply that. And interestingly enough, I talked about this during the solo stream couple weeks ago, or last week, I forget.
yeah, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. But it's doing a solo stream, you kind of have to engage your imagination, and that's something that as an adult you kind of tend to lose. And that's the imagination of you doing both sides of the conversation is kind of like how you when you were a kid, and you were playing Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles, or for girls you're playing House, and
Yeah,
you had to be the character that you were, but then you also did the part for the other characters or the villain, or and so you know um, again, like as an adult, and being an actor, you have to like we have to rediscover that imagination part of yourself.
right. Well, and I think where actors could really benefit a lot is if I was if I was a big A-list actor doing those type of movies, I would be like on the phone with any successful voice actor,
Mm-hmm.
because that they're in a way they're kind of doing the same thing because they're
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily given. what I mean, yes, they have the screenplay, they have the script, and like what they're supposed to
Right, but
like
they
kind
don't
of
necessarily have like the fully rendered out scene to see like what's
bingo.
going
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
but you know,
interestingly enough, I watched this documentary about the Batman the Animated Series, and when it got to the point of like the section where they're talking about the voice actors, and then they interviewed legendary voice director Andrea Romano.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
she's responsible for all of like the great like '90s era like animated voice castings.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, and she would because she was privy to some of like the early animations, she actually went into the booth with the voice actors and like said like, oh, okay, this is gonna happen, and like she would describe it to them to the point where they could see it in their minds, and I think and that was one of the great benefits, and I think one of the things that made Batman like the voice talent so successful is because like they had someone invested like Andrea Romano to like be there to help them visualize what they were doing.
well, it's funny because we're talking about like Star Wars too. Is like because Mark Hamill also was part of that too, and he's a wonderful voice actor.
Oh
I
yeah,
would say like
he like in my mind when I think of Joker, like I hear his voice. It doesn't matter
oh,
like sometimes when I'm watching like new DC animated stuff and I see the Joker, I kind of like I in my brain I switch it to Mark Hamill's Joker.
I mean, I almost like his voice acting stuff more than his like live action stuff. Um,
Hmm.
because I think that's where like Mark Hamill really shines as an
Hmm.
actor, and
Right, but yeah, and I mean it also benefits him because like no one's thinking because he's so tied to the character of Luke Skywalker. It's like he can never be another character.
well, it's funny because I actually just watched one last week's review. I kind of did some kind of like side movie watching just to kind of for some context with the Dirty Dozen,
Hmm.
and because Lee Marvin was talking about like war movies, I was reading a few articles of interviews that he did, and he was
Hmm.
talking about like war movies and how the Dirty Dozen wasn't necessarily his favorite war movie that he did. It was called the Big Red One was one of his favorites because
Hmm.
he felt it was extremely realistic to what he experienced as a World War II vet.
Hmm.
And that movie is also very good. I highly recommend it. But Mark Hamill's in that movie, and this is before Star Wars. This
Hmm.
was 67 or 68, so it was like right around like the time of the Dirty Dozen.
Hmm.
He's fantastic in that movie, but no one's gonna remember that because Star Wars has become so big, and yeah, that's kind of the problem with some of these actors. Like they might be the only one that I think really escaped being typecast after that was Harrison Ford.
Yeah, and you might be able to argue James Earl Jones because it's just his voice.
Well, that's true because I don't think anyone really knew James Earl Jones outside of his voice because he never like really he wasn't like in the suit or anything. It
Right,
was
right,
just
right, right. Oh yeah, and when the mask finally did come up, it wasn't as though it was James Earl Jones. Um,
no. So yeah, I that's true. I didn't think of that, but and I guess Alec Guinness too, because he was big way before
right.
Star Wars came about.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we somewhat talked about this during our review, but I think it's also kind of a. I'm still a little bit sad knowing that Toshiro Mifune was the initial thought to play Obi-Wan,
Hmm.
and like how great that could have been for that guy's career, at least in the United States.
Right, or yeah, or in terms of, I hate to say it, but I don't mean it in how the left, uses it, but like Asian American representation
I think we'd have a lot more
in
Asian
film. Yeah.
actors, like A-list Asian
Hmm.
actors.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you have like a few guys like Steven Yeun is like not an A actor, but like he's done some interesting stuff, and
Hmm.
he was definitely a fan favorite in The Walking Dead. And the
Right.
movies been putting out have been I know he made a ton of money from that, so he can kind of choose the projects he wants at this point.
Wait, what movie?
No, I'm saying Steven Yeun has made a ton of money from The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
So he can choose the projects he wants now, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's done that with movies like Burning and Minari.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't call him an A-lister. And
No, yeah. He's
and,
he's more he's like more of an artist, really.
Yeah.
In the way that maybe like in the way that even that movie The Artist was meaning for.
Yeah. But Toshiro Mifune, that guy is an A-lister. Like even majority of his movies are from Japan, but you watch that guy act, that's an A-lister. He can do a wide variety of. His physical acting is great. The emotion he conveys is there. He can really do it all. Like he can act without saying a word. And when you watch it, and I did watch one of his American movies that he was in, Red Sun, with him and Charles Bronson. He's great at that. Yeah, he has a little bit of an accent, but he is fantastic. And I think he would have been great in the role of Obi-Wan. And it's just, I think it is kind of a missed opportunity that didn't happen.
Yeah, and then if Toshiro Mifune did become was cast as Obi-Wan Kenobi, who would play the young version of him in the prequels?
Oh man, that
I know we're in this timeline, so it's kind of hard to pick a equivalent Asian actor. But
how young was Ken Watanabe back then?
How old was Ken Watanabe back then?
Yeah.
Let me quickly look up.
I forget how old he is, because I know he's been in a lot of, and he's been a favorite of Christopher Nolan.
Right.
So.
Okay. He's 61.
So let's see. That was 20 years. So you would have been 40. That would have been kind of, that might have actually kind of worked. No, that probably wouldn't have worked.
Okay. Well, he's like 11 years older than Ewan McGregor.
Maybe that would have worked. I don't know.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is 50 years old.
I mean, I don't think he would.
50 years old now. So, and what was it? Phantom Menace first came out in 1999.
Right.
So, what is that?
Because you kind of at that point where it's like you feel like Ken Watanabe has a little bit of that Mifune in him a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that acting ability, and I would agree.
Okay, so that was like 22 years ago? We're coming up on 22 years ago. So
here's the other thing is
he would have been 40 something, but Ewan would have been 30 something, or like actually late 20s.
Yeah, so it could have worked.
It could have possibly worked.
But here's the other thing that we don't know. This is one of those things, like had Mifune been Obi-Wan, and that would have it would have probably given rise to many more Asian actors. There might be someone that we wouldn't have known to have been a good actor that got thrust into that position that we just don't know about. That never became an actor because that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose someone that we do know, that would be the guy I would put in that place.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because from the actors from this timeline, trying to put in into the alternate timeline. Yeah. Yeah. It would have been Ken Watanabe as young Obi-Wan. It could have worked.
Yeah. I think it could have worked.
It could have worked, especially because since a lot of it was to de-age him. I mean, I know Ian was young. He was in his late 20s. But all they did was keep him clean shaven and buzz his hair.
Yeah.
And I think similarly, because Asians age pretty well. If you just clean shaved Ken Watanabe and then gave him a buzz, I think it would have worked.
Yeah, I think it could have worked too. But these are the things that we think of as Star Wars fans, and obviously, Andy and I are huge fans of Toshiro Mifune,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been dead for 20 years, but I keep watching his movies, and I'm just amazed with how great of an actor he is. And actually, it's funny that all the movies we're reviewing this month from it really shouldn't be East versus West. It should be Kurosawa versus West.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that'd be more accurate.
Yeah, it's and in all these Kurosawa films that we're reviewing, Toshiro Mifune is one of the stars, if not the star of the film.
Right.
And so we're gonna really get you as the audience. If you're watching along with us, you'll get to see what a great actor this guy really is.
Absolutely.
And I hope maybe like that inspires you to watch some of his other films. He's been most of his a lot of his movies were done with Kurosawa. Like I think they did like 16 movies together. And but he's done some other projects too that were not with Kurosawa. He did, like I said, he did Red Sun. That's an American movie. He's done the Samurai trilogy, which is the story of Miyamoto Musashi, which is I've watched them. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what other. I'm trying to think of like movies he did without Kurosawa. I guess technically the Yojimbo or Zatoichi Meets Yojimbo was
Mm-hmm.
not a Kurosawa film,
Right.
though it was a Kurosawa character to a degree. Um, I
Right.
highly
Yeah.
recommend
Like
that.
I describe it as like kind of like a Marvel Sony, an early
Yeah,
Marvel Sony like kind of type of deal where they're like the studio that made the Zatoichi movie were licensed the use of the Yojimbo character, but it had to be like 25% different, kind of like
yeah,
how Disney and Sony they made that deal so that Spider-Man could be in Civil War, but he had to be 25% different.
yeah, and that's I think very accurate because I don't think it was Toho that did that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's also a movie that I highly recommend, and hell, the whole Zatoichi series is something everyone should watch. It's
Yeah,
really good.
it's really good. It's such an interesting character because here's like the supposedly disabled person, but he's a fucking badass.
Yeah, and see, that's something else that like I think is kind of missing too. All this shit that like the left is talking about when it comes to representation.
Mm-hmm.
Where's like Zatoichi in the West? Like that's something that like could be used like where it inspires like, hey, I'm blind, but I don't have to be useless.
Well,
Or
arguably that's Daredevil.
I mean, I guess you're right in that. Like
Yeah.
that is technically, yeah, you're right on that
Yeah.
one. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's particularly why like I gravitated more towards like Marvel characters because they're like they're flawed, but Tony's an alcoholic. Daredevil's a blind man. The thing, he hates his condition.
yeah,
But he's still a hero, and that I think that's so compelling. These flawed people, yet they stand for something bigger than themselves.
yeah. It's just, but like I said, there. I think there's ways to go about it without it being like, something like, oh, we have to, represent this type of community. It's like, no, just tell a good story.
Right,
And
right,
if
right.
the
Yeah, it's like there's something called being too on the nose.
right, Zatoichi isn't proving a point that hey, blind people can do stuff too. It's
Yeah, he's
just
just a
telling a
really
great
fucking
story of
cool
why
character.
artists have to be blind.
Yeah, he's just a really fucking cool character.
Exactly. It
Because
doesn't
yeah,
have
because and it's sometimes it's not even his blindness that's his weakness. It's like his what is it like his gambling or his lecherousness or
well, it's funny because that the guy that plays him, uh, God, it's funny because it really is almost like his life story because that was his like addiction. He had a huge problem with like gambling and women and like drinking. So it's honestly like the whole Zatoichi series. Uh Shintaro Katsu is his name.
The actor.
I think that's his name. And yeah, he had actually, because he was actually supposed to do something with Kurosawa too. Kurosawa wanted to work with him, but he fucked it up because of his.
So he's kind of like the Charlie Sheen, Robert Downey Jr. of Japan.
Bingo, yeah, he really was, and that's and he talked about it, it's like, yeah, I kind of fucked all that up with Kurosawa, and he says like my career could have been much bigger had I done that, but but yeah, it's but yeah, it's just, but like I said, telling a story like that, it's not about like, oh, I'm this gay character or I'm like this, and like then like you kind of like, it's all about that, and then you kind of forget that, like, oh yeah, we have to actually tell a story. Well, fuck, it's like, no, tell a good story, and if you want to make the character this way, but like that's not the focal point. It doesn't have to be the focal point. Just make a cool character, and if he has a flaw, then that's cool. That's just write a good story. That's example A of telling a good story with like characters that like have flaws.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like nowadays everything's like, you have to have like, representation or this or that. I mean, that's partly why I didn't enjoy, the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier all that much. Even though generally speaking, I did enjoy it, but it was just like,
yeah, you go, Andy, because I think we're gonna say the same thing here.
All right, I just think it was so boring that they're like, they're talking about like, oh, this, like the America's not ready for a black Captain America.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like what, like, I don't want to, I don't want to see the real world, in my TV show. And even if you did want to like address this, then you found a way to talk about it without actually talking about it. That's kind of the genius of Star Trek, and like what Gene Roddenberry did is because he made humanity the good guys, but then he made the aliens the bad guys. Like the aliens were the ones dealing with like racism or bigotry, or it was the aliens who were dealing with greed or like immorality or whatever.
But humans had risen above all that.
Exactly. And it's like, it could have been a really interesting story in Falcon and the Winter Soldier where, they could have talked about like the idea of like, what is it, displacement or unequal treatment with by using something that actually happened in their reality, which was the blip, the snap.
I thought that's kind of the direction that they were going. I was like, okay, that's interesting, because that's it's like you're utilizing that universe where it's like, yeah, if you think about it, like we think like, oh great, everyone's back now that had been gone.
Yeah, but what are the ramifications of that?
Yeah, but there obviously like would have been like some other issues, like, oh yeah, like how do you get all these people that just all of a sudden reappeared again? Like, how do you do you restore them back to like where they were at, or do you find something new? That's a real problem that like within their universe.
Yeah, and also like the people who kind of who moved into these places that didn't belong to them, but because the people that used to live there weren't there anymore. It's like, do you force them to give it back? And so, I think in Spider-Man Far From Home, they kind of deal with that when, because I guess Aunt May, she got snapped away too. And then, when she came back, someone else was living in their apartment. And so they kind of touched on it in Spider-Man Far From Home, but they, if they went and delved deeper into that, I think it would have been a much more enjoyable show, because I don't, the idea of like, oh, in the Marvel universe is 2023, and it's like the idea that in 2023 that no one is ready for a black, Captain America or or no one recognizes the most famous like black superhero after maybe Black Panther on the street. That's ridiculous.
And I also love how like everyone forgets about Blade.
Oh yeah,
It's like
Blade. Dude,
who's also a
arguably
character, by the way.
Blade is the one that kicked off everything else. Like he was like,
He's also a Marvel
because
character, by the way.
what was that?
He's also a Marvel character, by the way.
Right. No, exactly. He was the one that like kind of jump started Marvel again because he was a successful comic book character, or they made a successful comic book movie, and so which might have revitalized the brand for them, and allowed Marvel to even think it was possible to create a cinematic universe.
Yeah, but I love how everyone like when Black Panther came out, like how it was like, oh, this is the greatest thing to happen to the black community, like in cinema. It's like, what about Blade?
And what about Blade? What about Meteor Man? I know that's more of a comedy, but
Yeah, but still, like it's like you have like like there's all these like great like movies that had like black stars in them that were the star, and you guys are just kind of like, oh, forget all that shit. Like, who cares?
and like even when what is it? Captain Marvel came out, it's like, oh yeah, Marvel's first female like superhero. I'm sure they meant like movie, but just like they made it sound like it was like the first Marvel like female like superhero movie that they ever made. But it's like what about Elektra? What about there's a few others, but
I think a lot of people want to forget about Elektra.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure even Jennifer Garner wants to forget about it. But I'm just saying, this is like there were other movies. We tried it. We gave them their fair shot. Blade was a very successful movie. I enjoyed the fuck out of that movie.
I love all those movies. They're awesome.
I know, like even like with the one where like it, the tone kind of got lighter, but like like with Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, but definitely the original Blade. Fuck, dude, that movie's great.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude! It was like dark. It was it definitely had like it definitely created like the atmosphere and like made it very believable that there's a world there's a world out that has like that where vampires exist.
Yeah, I mean it's when I look at all this stuff like where we have to celebrate black voices and all this stuff. It's like yeah, like cinema's been doing that for quite a while. Like In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier, you have like a lot of like there's a lot of comedies that Eddie Murphy did, like the Good Coming to America, and
Yeah.
then have
Right, and like the good like Nutty Professor.
yeah, the Good Nutty. You're right, the Good Nutty Professor. You have, like I said, you have Blade with Wesley Snipes. Technically, Demolition Man. Like I love Simon Phoenix just as much as I love Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. He was a great character. Yeah, Simon Phoenix was a really interesting character.
That movie doesn't work without Wesley Snipes in it.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, you have like you can even look at like something more modern. Yeah, he's not like the main star, but like in The Incredibles, like Frozone is awesome. I would love to see more with like Frozone. That's Samuel L. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Lakeview Terrace. Samuel L. Jackson was the guy. He was he was the villain, but like that movie doesn't work without him. And Die Hard with a Vengeance, my favorite one. Samuel Jackson.
Samuel Jackson. Yeah, he's in a lot of shit.
Yeah. He's so good. He's one of the. I was almost torn because I wanted to throw him into my list of favorite living actors,
mm-hmm.
but he kind of fought like because he is a leading actor. He's an A actor,
mm-hmm.
but he also plays in all these like weird like bit character parts too. Where I'm like, I'm so confused. He has like his own category.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's one of the most popular characters from the prequels is Mace Windu. Everyone loved Mace Windu.
Yeah. Right, and let's not forget the Lethal Weapon series. Danny Glover as Roger Murtaugh.
Fuck, dude! Like he one of the greatest. like the chemistry between him and Riggs, with
Mm-hmm.
Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. That movie doesn't work with anybody else. You can throw
No.
a white guy into Murtaugh's role.
Yeah, or like, or switch it out for another black actor. It
No,
doesn't
no
work.
way. So don't give me this thing that like we don't celebrate. I mean, even like the comedies that Richard Pryor was in, like some of those were awesome. Like Brewster's Millions. That movie's
Oh, that's
great.
my favorite one. That's my favorite one.
uh, he's been in a few other things too. Like, but I would say like that's probably my favorite Richard Pryor movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
that movie doesn't work without him.
No, exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like all this stuff where like I see it like on my Amazon like movie list and stuff like that, or like Netflix, or they have this celebrate Black voices. Like I've been doing that since like the '90s. Like there's been like a lot of it, but I'm not like I'm just enjoying good movies that tell good stories, or like or
Yeah, I mean, what does it say? What does it say about me that my favorite Star Trek captain is Captain Benjamin Sisko, a black man. He's my
wish I
favorite. He's my favorite. He's my favorite captain.
yeah I
Everyone, everyone does the false binary of either Kirk or Picard. I said no, Benjamin Sisko.
Yeah, and I have to, and you're probably gonna prove me right, and I have to watch I have to watch that Star Wars. I gotta finish. I feel like I I need to finish rewatching Next Generation, and then I'm gonna get to that.
Maybe it might help. Yeah,
I'm one of those guys.
it might help, especially like towards like the later episodes, because there is some crossover because like they kind of the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine kind of happen concurrently.
Right, and that's why like it's kind of the same thing with there was that great crossover movie slash event with Next Generation and the original series.
Yeah, yeah, Star Trek Generations.
Yeah, that's I need to watch that. And I'm one of those people like I like to start from the very beginning and work my way through because I
Mm-hmm.
think it builds better context.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what was it? Something else that like with black actor that and I always God, I always forget his name. The black guy from the Green Book. He was also in Luke
Oh
Cage.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he was also the bad guy in Alita: Battle Angel.
Yes, but he's in. I just watched the third season of True Detective this past weekend.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
And
He
he's
was.
in that. And the guy, that's one of the greatest acting performances I've ever seen. I mean, it's like when I was talking to you about Split,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is that guy. Like I always forget his name too. The guy that he's like the new um,
James
uh,
McAvoy.
yeah, thank you. He's the new Professor X or whatever.
Yeah.
But he that's like if you're looking for like acting, that's the movie you gotta watch. You gotta watch Split. But
Oh yeah, yeah. He does a great job. Yeah, like embodying all those different personalities. It's
right.
amazing.
But I would recommend also True Detective season 3 because you have this guy who is he's reliving this case that has like pretty much enveloped his life. So you see it from like the very beginning of the case from like 1980 to the when it's reopened in 1990, and
Mm-hmm.
then him reviewing it as an old man with dementia, and like how this guy acts. It's just I was blown away. Like this is amazing, and that guy is a fantastic actor. Like I haven't seen the Green Book yet, but I've heard it's interesting at the very least. And I like that actor. I think he's a good actor. I liked him when he was in Luke Cage. I felt he
Mm-hmm.
was an interesting character. Um, hell, even the guy who plays Luke Cage, I think he's a good actor too.
Yeah. Although, yeah, at the end of the second season, they do kind of destroy his character, which I don't like.
Yeah, there was that, and then and then here's another thing too. Speaking of like this whole idea, like back in the '90s, we watched as TV shows. We watched shows like Family Matters and Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Uh, you know, and we didn't care that it's like it was a black family. Like, did we care? Like, no, it was a great show. That's what we enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean,
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air there's some episodes there where I was like, that, like, it, I cried, like, because the episode hurt, like, just like with like the raw emotion of it. Like the episode where with Will's like real dad
Yeah,
like
comes
shows up.
back. Oh yeah. Oh my god.
The episode like where Carlton like he wants vengeance for like what happened to them when him and
Yeah,
Will
they got mugged. Yeah, when he got mugged, and then Will took a bullet for him, and and just like he went and got himself a gun, and then Will pleads with him. It's like, oh, you owe me your life, so give me that gun. Don't do anything stupid. It's like,
fuck, dude,
yeah, so fucking powerful.
Right here. And so and even like I said, Men in Black, like that movie doesn't work without Will Smith. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, it's like
Bad Boys is another thing. Black actors doing a great thing. It's comedic, but it's also great at the same time.
Right? Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and it's like, and it goes off the typical trope of the wild man and the straight and the guy who plays the straight. It's funny because like they in Bad Boys it kind of fluctuates back and forth between the two, like between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, but somehow it still works.
Yeah, God, it's just great acting and it's fun. So I don't know. I feel like it can be done. You can kind of promote something without actually promoting it, and like it's
just like the whole thing. Like, don't bring attention to it. That's all you need to do. Just don't bring attention to it. It's like if you make it just like a normal thing, then the audience will just perceive it as being, oh, that's just part of the show. That's just part of how that universe runs, and we won't think another thing about it. We'll just accept it.
Exactly, and that's how you tell a story, and that's where you get people's minds thinking. It's like, oh, you know what, maybe and to be honest, like I don't know of any like personally any racists like in my life, so it's not like like, oh, I'm now that I've watched this movie that's celebrating black voices, I better be nice to black people. No, it's like, no, I grew up like watching this stuff, and it's like, yeah, I don't harbor any,
I mean, yeah, the top TV show was Family Matters, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Arguably, like, yeah, they were
and I mean, yeah, and if you want, I mean, yeah, I know it's kind of verboten now, but like in the '80s, it was the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Again, all black family.
I thought it was a great show. It's yeah, Bill Cosby turned out to be an awful person, but this is a guy also like his comedy was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
His show, The Cosby Show, was great. And obviously, like, we grew up and watched a show that starred a black guy that was it was an educational show, Reading Rainbow. Now, LeVar Burton has kind of
he's fallen so far, yeah, especially recently with his tweets.
The Next Generation too. He's a great actor.
Yeah, Michael Dorn, who plays the most fucking badass character in all of Star Trek. Yeah. Worf, the Klingon warrior. What else? Yeah, I mean, and there was like, kind of like the there was like the black, version of Friends, living single.
Oh, dude. That show is awesome.
It was fun. I mean, I probably shouldn't have been watching it, but I was watching it.
Neither should I, but I did.
Yeah, I mean, because they talked a lot about sex.
Dude, yeah, because I watched it as an older person, as an older man, and I'm like, dude, the show is really sketchy. Why did I watch this? What? It's like,
why wasn't anyone monitoring my television consumption?
Yeah. So we're on the same page on this, Andy, and I really wish that we could just go back to Hollywood, just tell good stories. That's all we want. Like, if you want to use like a black character, great. You can tell it doesn't matter. There's all these great actors.
Just make him compelling. Just that's all I'm asking. Just make the character compelling.
There's great actors out there. There's great Asian actors. There's great black actors. There's great like Indian actors. There's great like Latin actors. Just tell a great story. and I'll watch.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and like if you want to put like some sort of stupid leftist message in there, okay. Case in point, when last month when we did that review for Predestination, again, I saw the spells. I didn't care because it was a good story.
Fuck
It
yeah,
told.
dude. I was thinking, it's like, I see what they're doing here, but they're telling it in a good way where it's like, okay, you got me.
Right, yeah, because like the character of Jane or like the Unwed Mother or Ethan Hawke, they were all interesting characters.
Right, and like so leftists, if you want to tell your story about how, like, oh, men can become women or vice versa, that's how you tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get your point across, tell a story like Predestination, because that movie, like, that's a well told story.
All right, put the poison in the cake. All right, that's what I'm saying here. All right, put the poison in the cake.
Right? I mean, that's how you tell that story. You don't, like, shove it in our face, like, and like, eat the fucking thing, eat it. It's like that's what a lot of movies and shows feel like to me today. It's like you're just like, they're trying to, like, do what Kevin Spacey did in Seven, where he, like, had that guy eat himself to death.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, gluttony, yeah.
eat
But yeah,
it.
kind of like yeah, but kind of coming back full circle to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or at least the part of where I started deviating off because we're supposed to be talking about Star Wars, but whatever. Um, like that speech at the end, yeah, well, the new Captain America gives, yeah, it was fine, but it was very like,
It felt
wag. It felt forced. It's very like wag your finger, and like I could tell like the way Mackie was delivering the lines. It felt like it didn't feel like
it didn't feel like him.
Anthony Mackie playing Sam Wilson.
No,
It sounded like somebody else. It sounded like somebody's like, geez, like, oh, you have to do better, Senator. It's like, no, Sam Wilson would not have said that.
fuck no. And the thing is, I can't say, like, this would be. It felt unnatural for Mackie himself too, because he seems like a pretty, like, kind of cool
Yeah,
customer.
Maggie seemed like a cool ass motherfucker.
Yeah, and it felt very, and I love his character too. And to be honest, I do like the new Captain America suit with the kind of mixture of him and Falcon. I was like, that's okay. That's pretty cool looking. I like it. But yeah, it just, I like the show in general, because it's like I said, I liked him and Bucky together. I thought they were awesome.
Oh yeah, like yeah. I mean, just when you watch interviews of Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie together, it's just like
The chemistry
yeah,
between
the
those
chemistry
two,
was just so good. It's like if you don't put them two like in a show or a movie, then that's a sin.
yeah. So that was great, but there was just so much that felt a little forced. And where I look at yeah, and even like my wife, who we watched that show together, and we watched WandaVision. WandaVision was really well told. I really like that a lot. I think that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I'm talking. And because and Marvel's actually done a pretty good job on that front, like where they're telling a good story without it feeling like a lecture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whereas like the lectures come where Marvel wasn't necessarily telling, or at least like forcing that lecture on you, but like the audience kind of was, or critics.
Yeah, or like the interpretation of people who are reviewing it or writing articles about it. That's where the lecture came
Where
from.
people, like,
It
they
wasn't
were,
like explicitly from Marvel or like that specific character, but just like the interpretation or like like the person reviewing was the one like, oh well, Captain America really meant like, oh, smash the patriarchy. It's like, oh, stop.
No, and it's I still to this day refuse to watch it because Brie Larson is so insufferable.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch it, and I was just like, eh, you know.
But it's even like when like when Black Panther came out, like I watched it and I liked it a lot. I still
Mm-hmm.
do. But like you had journalists who were writing that like they like Wakanda was a real place. Like it's guys, come on, it's not. It's not real. It's a comic.
Yeah, no, there was those people that went to go watch. There was those black people that went to go watch it in like dashikis and whatever.
I was just like,
And kente cloth. I was like, why? Why? Literally, why?
are you from like Nigeria or it's like
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, yeah, and like, yeah, they don't want to mention this, but like, yeah, like the kente cloth that that was from like I forget what tribe is.
actually like the people that enslaved people that sent them,
Yeah, exactly. It's the people. It's the black people that captured other black people to sell to the white people.
We had all those dumbass senators and Congress people that were doing that.
Yeah, yeah. The 8.5 minutes of kneeling to in memory of like George Floyd or whatever, like wearing the kente cloth. Yeah, like even like the Zulu was it or I don't know.
Yeah, it's just
something like that. Yeah, but they were the ones that sold the other black people to the white people.
Let's do a little bit of research, guys. Come on.
Yeah, take 3 seconds. Take 3 seconds.
But it's one of those things. But like the movie itself wasn't telling like it was telling that story, but it wasn't telling that story at the same time. This is good storytelling. You had the Black Panther, and the Wakandans who retreated unto themselves. They were very
they're
nationalistic.
isolationists. Yeah,
and that guy was the one that was trying to like that was a son of a Wakandan, and
yeah, but he's like a pan. He's like one of those pan African majors who were like who were pissed off at white people. Like oh he was like yeah Killmonger. He was the one of the we was Kangs types.
Yeah, and that's just like, but he's the bad guy. Nobody liked him.
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, women found him very appealing, but no one.
But that guy's a really good actor, by the way.
Right, Michael B. Jordan's awesome. I love that guy.
A really great black actor. Like it's
again.
But like
it's just like it's so crazy because like the supposed people who are the good guys are really the bad guys. Because Killmonger was one of those Pan African study we was Kangs type, but he was the bad guy. Similarly in Kingsman, Richard Valentine, again played by a black actor Samuel Jackson, he was he was an environmentalist, yet he was the villain.
Yeah, and it's like you can't do that movie without him. It's just but it's funny, like all this stuff that they like. It's great. That's what I'm saying. It's like, come on, guys, let's tell the good story, and you can still put out your message and not being an insufferable idiot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, and like, yeah, and Poison Ivy, she's again another environmentalist villain.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's funny we don't think about that, but yeah, you're right.
I swear.
But it's
yeah, but Star Wars, woo, yeah.
We started off with like talking about like what would have happened had Toshiro Mifune taken that role.
Yeah.
And it leads to this, and I know this is something that you and I talk about a lot off camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we kind of like once again like good storytelling. Like we didn't like force it in your face. Like it just kind of naturally progressed, and we got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's even in our digression, you might say. I think it speaks to our great appreciation for Star Wars and what Star Wars actually is. It's just a good story. You know, it's yes, it's a timeless, has like kind of timeless tropes or archetype of characters, but
It's a Greek tragedy in a
yeah,
lot of ways.
it is, but it's a good story, and yes, it's a familiar story. Yes, there's familiar elements and you know similar characters to other stories, but again, it's just a good story.
And even George Lucas would say that it's not like yeah, he took inspiration from a lot of different things to put that in there,
Mm-hmm.
and which is the movie that we're going to be reviewing here very shortly, Hidden Fortress. Like a lot of inspiration came from that, and a lot of the Flash Gordon serials.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot, and even like some of other George Lucas things, like with Indiana Jones and
Mm-hmm.
his other projects. Those were all inspired by a lot of different things. Now, I haven't watched his first movie, which is THX 1138, though
Mm-hmm.
it's on HBO now, so I'm probably gonna check it out because it seems kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also talked about his, which was my dad's favorite movie. We talked about it with him, American Graffiti, which is, that it was not necessarily an original story. It was inspired by his childhood and like
Right,
what he.
but even then, there's still like kind of archetypes in that story. You have Richard Dreyfuss's character, who's kind of like the lost, kind of hesitant, wanderer. He was on the threshold of something. Whether or not to go to college or not. Um, same thing with what's his Richie Cunningham, Ron Howard's character, where he was kind of conflicted too, because like whether or not to stay or go, he ultimately decides to stay, because of his girlfriend. But again, yeah, not unique characters, archetypes for sure.
Right.
But again, it told a very interesting story.
That it's funny because we were there was a Twitter thread that was I think it was leading up to like Star Wars, and then it was talking about Harrison Ford, and people were asking like, what's your favorite Harrison Ford movie? And obviously people are talking about like him as Indiana Jones and him as Han Solo. Can't argue with that. I love those characters. Um, it's like some people use Dr. Richard Kimball from The Fugitive, also a great
Mm-hmm.
movie. Um, but no, I mean there was probably about like 100 or so responses, and no one talked about American Graffiti. It's like, oh, I'm going to be the one that's going to talk about American Graffiti. And it's funny because I got a lot of responses from that too. It's like, oh shit, I totally forgot about that movie. Yeah, that's right. That he was great in that. And it's like, and it gave me a chance. Like, I did plug our episode on American Graffiti, but then
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about like, it's funny because Harrison Ford was on the outs in his career. But he was friends with George Lucas, who was creating this movie. And it's like, hey, do you want to, as a favorite, you want to like act in this movie that I'm doing? And he did it, and that the rest is history. And he essentially resurrected his nothing career at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and he became an A-lister. I mean, yeah, in the
Yeah.
'90s, like
I
God, how
mean,
many?
yeah, like Harrison Ford owes his career to George Lucas.
Yeah, and I've
Just
actually been watching a
simply,
lot.
simple, full stop.
Yeah, and I've been watching a ton of Harrison Ford movies recently. Like I watched Presumed Innocent. I'm putting in. I'm going to be watching a movie called Frantic, which I've never seen either of those movies before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to watch I haven't seen the Patriot games and stuff like that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to rewatch Air Force One. Just like his like big like 80s and 90s stuff. Actually, funny thing with Frantic, that's a Roman Polanski film too. So I'm
Mm.
as much of a is a loser pedophile that guy is. The guy makes a goddamn good movie. I had to admit that. Chinatown is one of the greatest movies of all time. And
Right.
that's a Polanski pick. So can't really argue that it's like the guy is a good director. But yeah, but yeah, Harrison Ford owes his career to George Lucas, and just yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Nope.
And was it what one last thing about Star Wars too is because a lot of one of the movie podcasts I listen to, which I also highly recommend, which it's they're no longer doing new episodes, but it's great. You guys got to listen to it. Is Movie Sign with the Mads, And these are the MST3K guys that are talking about movies, and which
Mm-hmm.
those guys know movies. Like they,
Right.
uh,
Yeah, I mean they've been doing commentaries, even before us.
and yeah, so they know all that about this stuff. But they were talking about like the idea, like they were talking about like George Lucas and Star Wars. It's like what because they're because we did Apocalypse Now. Actually, that was actually supposed to be George Lucas that was supposed to be directing that,
Mm.
and he ended up deciding to not do that, and he did Star Wars instead. And to think like how history would have been changed had George Lucas done that movie instead of Star Wars. We may have never gotten Star Wars for one, but
Mm-hmm.
then I think it also would have. I think we would have seen how good of a director George Lucas could have been, because he hasn't done after Star Wars came about. I don't think he did anything else. That's the thing. We never really got a chance to see
The
his other
the only
because
other thing he did was Red Tails.
yeah, and I have to rewatch that because I haven't seen that in a while. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was kind of like loosely connected to Indiana Jones, but that was more of
Yeah,
a
he was
Steven.
just more of a producer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I think no, he created the character. He did some writing too, but ultimately he did more producing, and he
right.
let Steven Spielberg direct.
He was the Coppola to Lucas as like an all American Graffiti.
Yeah.
um, and it's funny because you watch like some of his other stuff before he did Star Wars, and it's like George Lucas could have made some really great movies outside of
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, but it's hey, you hit it big, and like something. I mean, as I've always said, Star Wars has transcended Lucas himself, but yeah, history would have been completely different. It was something that it's kind of an interesting thought project that
Yeah.
had to do
Mm-hmm.
Apocalypse Now instead of Star Wars, because I think Coppola ended up doing Apocalypse Now, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah, he did.
And that's and it's funny that those two, it's Lucas turned that down and Coppola picked it up, kind of, it's and how connected those two guys are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like they all like are from that same kind of class.
That directing school, yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Brian De Palma, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, yeah, Steven Spielberg.
But yeah, it just like I said, interesting thought project. But I'm definitely glad that Star Wars did get made. And if you haven't like seen some of the shows, check out the shows. And The Mandalorian is great. Star Wars: The Clone Wars is great. Um, obviously the original trilogy is you. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing with your life? Um, and but a lot of people shit on the prequel trilogy, but it's actually a lot better than people think. And before the new trilogy came out, Rogue One was actually that was the first one that Disney put out, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I liked. I thought it was a good movie. Um, I liked it. The acting was great, and uh, it was a story that I don't think a lot of people asked for, but it's how the rebellion got the plans of the Death
Right.
Star. Kind
Yeah.
of gives some context because you think it's like, oh, these people are stupid. Like, why did they create this like exhaust port? It's like,
Right. Yeah. It kind of retcons the ideas like, oh, this vast galactic empire, but then they left like with this one weakness in this exhaust port. It's like no. It was like it was actually intentionally done so it could it was actually sabotage so it could be destroyed. So, but yeah, it's like one of those like the stories that you didn't think that you needed to see, but then you're glad that it exists.
oh, 100%, yeah. So that's all I got to say about that. Like, this isn't exactly the conversation I was expecting us to have today, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. I had a rant about something else, but I'm glad we talked about this instead.
Yeah, this is a very good distraction for you because I know like if we got into it then it just made you more pissed off and then It wouldn't have been good, and then just like and even though I like do my best to try and like get away from that, it's like it's still just like kind of get back to you would have been just fuming the rest of the episode.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. I want to celebrate today. So
Right? Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's like today is today is the celebration of Star Wars, and like and it's a celebration, not like a bitch fest. And even though there is plenty of things that we can bitch about Star Wars, particularly like new Star Wars. Let's not. Let's rally around the thing that let's come together on the things that we can agree on that we like about Star Wars.
yeah,
And even if you do like the new Star Wars, the sequel trilogy and whatnot, it's like okay, more power to you.
Yeah, and hey, if you do like the sequel trilogy, tell us what you like about it. Maybe Andy and I are missing
what are we missing? What are we not getting about the sequel trilogy that you get?
Exactly, and I do like what they're doing with show wise. I mean, obviously, The Mandalorian is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And today the Bad Batch came out, which I'm actually really looking forward to watching.
Oh yeah, me too.
But then there's all sorts of like new like little like episodic stuff that they're going to be doing. Obviously, we have the mini series with Obi-Wan. So there's a lot to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, like new like Disney Plus stuff that's coming out. The only stuff that like interested me was the Marvel and Star Wars stuff. The actual like Disney stuff, I was like, this is fucking garbage. Like I'm not interested at all because it's all rehashing and stuff. It's like, yeah,
I mean, like, they came out with that Mighty Ducks TV show, but again, it's kind of like a bastardization. They made, what is it? Emilio Estevez's character, Gordon Bombay, into like this curmudgeon who's like, oh, I hate hockey. And it's like, why? Like at the end of the third one, I know he wasn't in it a lot, but he still liked hockey. He still liked, the Ducks team that he was, that he helped, found.
Skywalker treatment. That's what they did.
Yeah, they gave him the Jake Skywalker treatment. It's like nobody likes that shit.
Yeah, if he was like a curmudgeon, like throughout all those movies, like to begin with, I'm like,
yeah, but again, it destroys the entire. I mean, I haven't watched it yet. I mean, maybe I will watch it just to be fair, so I can like, so we can come back and like actually like shit on it properly or whatever. But it's like the way they're presenting it, it's like, yeah, it's another Drake Skywalker situation where they destroy a character for no fucking good reason. Like at the end of his arc in like the third Ducks movie, I know he wasn't in it a ton, but he still liked hockey. He still liked kids. He was trying his best to. I think the third one is like they get like scholarships to this hoity-toity private school, and like the Ducks team becomes like their JV team, and they get like there's like this rivalry between the new JV team and like the varsity team. And so I don't know, but yeah, it's like, but still like Gordon Bombay, he's still like, oh yeah, I still love these kids. I'm still like I'm still like this big proponent of like Pee-wee sports or whatever, or hockey. But like like the first teaser trailer for the new Duck series, like, oh, I hate kids, I hate hockey. It's like, why?
It's like, what happened to you, sir?
Yeah, I know. Like, what happened? What happened? It's like, oh, Disney happened to you. Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. What is it? Feminism happened to you. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like if they went about it and they made him like the new like Han's character, like his former mentor, the guy that ran the the hockey gear shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Different story. Yeah, but it's. Well, I might have to like. Well, I would need to watch all the Mighty Ducks movies because it's been a fucking long ass time since I've seen those. And then I'd probably watch the show.
Of course you would. That's your process. I get it. That's your process. That's your process.
I need to like refresh my mind because I watched that as a kid, and I remember stuff obviously, but I'm like. I gotta look at it with a new critical lens.
Yeah, you have to see. Yeah, you have to see it as an adult.
That's why I tortured myself to watch all the movies again.
Again, you're a masochist. All right, that's all it is. You're a masochist.
You know the kind of crap I watch, Andy. Like I just
Yeah, I know, and I fucking hate you for it.
you know your life is better because you've watched Birdemic with me.
Please, please. Okay, the one credit that I'll give you is that you spared me and you showed me the riff tracks version of it.
Oh, I would never raw dog you with that stuff. No, I'm not that evil.
You are though. You actually are, because you made me watch that Wizzo the Clown shit.
Oh man, that was great. That was a great one.
Yeah, people don't look that up. All right, don't look up Wizzo the Clown. You don't listen to Robert. Okay, don't listen to a fucking thing he says.
You don't know you're missing.
It's like being dropped liquid AIDS into your eyes.
I might. We'll have to do a Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode at some point.
At some point, I don't know when.
Well, there is an MST3K movie that came out in '96. It was where they actually came out in theaters, which is really great. Which we might have to do that. Maybe we'll do that in October. Like we'll do like a birthday like thing for us, like where I'll choose 2 things that I want to watch, and you watch 2 things that you want to watch for your birthday, and we'll review it.
Yeah, but all the things that you want to watch are shit, dude. Oh.
Anyways,
Yeah.
anything else before we get to the review, Andy?
No, just I think I'll just finish it off with saying, "Long live Star Wars."
Yes, sir. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you always. Okay, well, I guess that's it for the live portion for tonight. We'll get it. We'll get into it. The movie review shortly. Just want to quickly thank you all for joining us. Even if you're catching this, on the rebound. Don't forget, thanks for joining. Stick around for the movie review, and we'll do all again next week. Yeah. May the 4th be with you. Always. What up, you nerf herders? It's that time of the night. It's time for the movie review, and this month's theme is East versus West. And with us to review these movies is a friend of the podcast, Gay Alex.
All right. With us earlier today, he's with us tonight. We've transported to different places and changed clothes, and we're still all together.
Right. But yeah, this month's theme for the movie reviews is East versus West, and the premise is we're going to watch 2 movies. One, usually the Eastern original versus the Western remake or outright theft.
Yeah.
In the case of a future movie that's going to come up.
Yeah.
But yeah, interestingly enough, though, we say East versus West or Eastern versus Western.
It's Kurosawa versus West is more like it.
Pretty much, yeah. But it's interesting though that a lot of the remakes of the Eastern or Japanese versions end up becoming kind of the genre Western, cowboys and things like that.
Yeah, that's very true. I think the Jideki or the old Japanese samurai movies tend to, when people are trying to, the equivalent really is gunslingers of the Old West.
I just want to say one thing: West Side. Just
Yes, West. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I guess like this ancient period of like the samurai and like the shogunate and things like that. It's like the Japanese equivalent of the West in America.
Because like those movies are very very popular, especially in Japan,
Hmm.
especially during that time. And that was Kurosawa's bread and butter was those old samurai movies.
Hmm.
And it's the same with like the westerns that are out here that are just so famous that everyone still watches to this day.
Hmm.
And I guess you could technically, yeah, Star Wars is sci-fi, but it's kind of like it's like a space western in a lot of ways.
Or Space Samurai. I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
A
A
year,
lot of comparisons could be made.
you got to binge watch it once a year at least. Just saying.
I know, at
yeah.
least once a year. Everyone has like everyone should do it. It's good fun. But per usual, I will start off with this review with reading the synopsis for the respective films. So here we go. Here is the synopsis for The Hidden Fortress. Japanese peasants Matachi. Damn it, these fucking Japanese names.
Matafuji.
Yeah, Japanese peasants Matashichi and Tahe try and fail to make a profit from a tribal war. They find a man and woman whom they believe are simple tribe members hiding in a fortress. Although the peasants don't know that, um, Ro
Rokuroda.
Rokurota Rokurota is a general, and Yuki, wow, okay, an easy one, is a princess. The peasants agree to accompany the pair to safety in return for gold. Along the way, the general must prove his expertise in battle while also hiding his identity. All right, now the synopsis for the for Star Wars.
Bum, bum, bum,
Uh,
bum.
the Imperial forces, under orders from cruel Darth Vader, hold Princess Leia hostage in their efforts to quell the rebellion against the Galactic Empire. Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, work together with the companionable droid duo R2D2 and C3PO to rescue the beautiful princess, help the Rebel Alliance, and restore freedom and justice to the galaxy.
Well,
Oh,
what's cool about this week's review, like this is Star Wars. Obviously, like we've been celebrating Star Wars, all day today. I think it's definitely in our top movies that we enjoy, and it's kind of nice, seeing what really inspired George Lucas. At least one of the things that inspired George Lucas to create this movie, and this was when he talks about it, this is the movie that he talks about the most, being his inspiration for Star Wars. And it's not like an outright like, oh, you can check out scene for scene, like, oh, well, yeah, that's from Star Wars. No, but the themes and some of the characters are there. Um,
Right.
and
I think if if you're a follower of Lucas's work, then you already know the story of how he was inspired, or Star Wars is somewhat inspired by this movie, and initially I thought it was like story as well. I mean, I didn't expect the Japanese to do like space opera, but some elements I thought like from the story would make its way into Star Wars, but actually it's more of like it's the structure is inspired by Hidden Fortress.
yeah, I think so too. I think it's inspired by it because when I was watching it, I'm not gonna say I watched it yesterday, but um, I was thinking like, I'm gonna see Star Wars. I'm gonna see Star Wars, but it wasn't that at all. I think, like you said, some of the characters were,
Hmm.
and some of the, let's say, Darth Vader holding someone captive, right? You could kind of see some of the scenes, from here and there, depending
Hmm.
on what movie you're watching. But I wasn't disappointed, and I don't think Lucas copyrighted at all. I mean, like I said, some characters, things like that, but nah, totally
no,
different.
there's nothing like I said, when you're watching it, there's nothing where it's like you can't take, oh, this scene was definitely in Star Wars. It's nothing like that. It's just
Right.
more of,
Yeah,
I think,
certain
like,
like character archetypes, or kind of like the themes, or like kind of certain situation, like the whole like hidden general. That's obvious. That's obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi, who used to be a general in the Clone Wars and whatever. And of course
right.
the princess is obviously Princess Leia, but she's not being held hostage, but she's kind of trying to hide her identity.
That's true. And with her too, it's she is kind of this very brash, like she's not like a weak in the knees, damsel in distress. Like she's
not
kind
a
of part
delicate
of,
flower.
exactly. One other, like the obviously then you see in the Tahe and Matsushi. Now I can't say it.
Yeah, see, not so easy, huh?
Matsushi, he you kind of see a little
Round
bit of like the R2D2 and C3PO and those two, and just kind of like they like each other, like they're friends, but at the same time they hate each other.
Right. It seems like they more like tolerate each other.
Yeah.
I think I like C3PO and R2D2's character more though. I feel like
of course you would, gay Alex. Seeing as they're the first on-screen depiction of a gay couple.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
I know. If you think of R2D2 and C3PO in the context of a gay couple, you cannot unsee it.
Yeah. Well, it's like Simpsons kind of brought that to mind too, where they had that scene. They're watching TV, and it's like, watch the robots from Battlestar Galactica fight the gay robots from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Well, I'll never look at them the same, dude.
Yeah.
This is also like we've talked about this in a previous episode, like with our top 5 leading actors, and Mifune is definitely one of. He was on my list. I think he was on everyone's list from that episode.
Yeah.
And he definitely steals the show. I mean, I think he's the best character out of all of them, other than maybe like the rival general. But he just has that like presence, like where he's funny, yet he has this like commanding, like you feel like he's a general, like you believe his portrayal of that character of General Makabe.
Yeah, absolutely. And just another little tidbit. I mean, I'm sure if you're a fan of Star Wars and you know this, but if you aren't, even if you're a fan, but you may not know, but Lucas actually wanted Toshio Mifune to play Obi-Wan Kenobi, the general in Hidden Fortress. Lucas wanted him to play Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. And you think that would be crazy, but like I've seen some of Toshiro Mifune's like English films that he's done, like Red Sun. He's great. He would have been great as Obi-Wan.
You think he would have been more, I don't want to say threatening, but have you ever seen, there's this scene where they remake where he's fighting Vader on YouTube?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like it's like the battles like extended out a little bit more, and more graphics and things. Yeah. I love that one.
That's what I'm picturing right now when you guys are saying, that he could have played Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder if
I would actually say that. Yeah, I'm thinking that Lucas wouldn't have killed off Obi-Wan if it were Toshio Mifune, because you can't lose a guy like that. I mean, I know like narratively. I know narratively it makes sense to kill off Obi-Wan, to lose the mentor, so the young hero can kind of stand up on his own for a little bit. But yeah, I don't think if Toshio Mifune was to play Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, then Lucas wouldn't have killed him off.
No,
he would have been too good of a resource, as an actor to to do away with so quickly. And I mean, Lucas has, but although I wouldn't put it past him to kill off Obi-Wan even if it were Toshio Mifune, because Lucas has this reputation of completely wasting characters.
God. Well, we talked about that with Jar Jar Binks, earlier today, where it's like the guy, a lot of people believe that he was actually supposed to be, Count Dooku, He was like a hidden Sith character, but then because of all the backlash, Luke's like, well, okay, I guess we'll just not use him anymore, and then, but
Right. I
oh
mean,
well.
and for reasons that we went into in the main episode, it just makes more sense because they're both from the same planet, and so they would have more chance like of interacting with each other because like even if since he was Palpatine started off as a senator, like how often does he because he's probably spending a lot of time on Coruscant, the capital planet. um how often would he really have time to go and like search out like Darth Maul for his new apprentice or whatever. It would have just made more sense for him to like choose an apprentice that was like closer to him.
I, yeah, that kind of does make sense. How would he have convinced Jar Jar though? You know?
That's
Mm,
a great question though. It's
mm,
more of since we're going down that route, like I would say, the his people were not necessarily like they were kind of outcasts in a lot of ways on that planet, and it's a way to to have power.
yeah,
I
yeah.
still
I
like that.
mean,
That idea would have been great.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, what would the story be if it were? Yeah, what would the story be if Palpatine did choose Jar Jar? Like what would have been like because with Anakin, his greatest fear was the thing that enabled his corruption and eventual turn to the dark side.
That's
But
true.
but yeah, for Jar Jar, what would it be? Would it just be like Jar Jar, wanted power, because
Maybe it was just plain greed, just like the characters in Hidden Fortress. That's the one thing I couldn't get over is how the money, the
oh
Yeah.
gold to
yeah,
them. And
Well, I mean
even
that's
for
really
their friendship, I was just like, you know,
well, it's really the whole like for Hidden Fortress going back to that like yeah that's kind of really the whole theme of the movie because you have I mean obviously you have the two warring countries
right,
where you have the one side that's like they want power and that they're that they're fighting for that and I mean they essentially enslave a whole bunch of people and peasants and defeated soldiers to dig for in that castle for the gold, which
right.
is they had quite a lot of it. Um, and that's really like and with our two of our main characters. I mean that's they kind of they want riches. That's why they went into battle to begin with. It didn't work out, and then they stumble upon the gold that that the whole country is searching for, and they find a way to they have a plan to like get it all out of there. But it's just that's kind of like the theme of the movie is it's greed.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty simple motivation.
Especially back then, or being a peasant.
Yeah, because even like seeing one of those, it's like, oh crap! Like I've never seen seen this much money,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
Hey,
interestingly enough, that idea of greed as a carrot does translate into Star Wars in the character of Han Solo,
that's true. That's very true because that's
right?
his point. At least initially, that's his entire motivation. Is like, hey, I'm just in it for the money, sister. It's like,
Right, and it's what is it? Yeah, because like he's a smuggler, and he has debts, particularly to the mob, and so of course like when Obi-Wan first approaches him and says like, yeah, we'll give you, like when he says, when he offers more than what like Han Solo was asking for. It's just like dollars, dollar signs.
right.
Um, so yeah, so it was easy to kind of enlist Han Solo.
but
I was, I
yeah,
was gonna
you go.
say, remember the end of the film, right? Hidden Fortress. I
Yeah,
since you guys are talking about Han, I would say that, at the end they got over their greed, and wanted their friendship more. And I feel like maybe throughout Star Wars, that's kind of what happened to Han.
Yeah, well,
He,
yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually just gonna mention that where they all of a sudden it's like no you keep that we'll share it, it's okay, and like they kind of get over that. And Han, like, everyone thinks like, oh, he got his money, he's gone, and then he ends up coming to save the day. It saves Luke's ass, and he ends up becoming like, someone that he actually cares about, like the rebellion and everything. And he he became not just a smuggler at that point. He became like an integral character that cared, which is part of the reason why Han's my favorite character.
Yeah, he's a very Han is a very relatable character. Um, because I think anyone can see themselves in Han Solo, where it's like, I'm just trying to get by, in this universe. I'm just trying to make a living. I'm trying to keep the mob off my tail. Um, it's just anybody who has responsibilities. They totally get Han Solo.
I just want to say, those 200 gold pieces, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That couldn't buy a house in California. I just want to throw that out there. Okay? it just can't.
Maybe it might buy you like a swatch of grass, of sod or something.
Maybe. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it just depends on the exchange rate for gold. I guess, or what gold is valued at right now. Which I think is still pretty high. But yeah, I mean, to Alex's point, yeah, to try to buy a house in Los Angeles County, yeah, yeah, you could have 400, of those little gold ingots, and you still wouldn't be able to afford like a what is it, like a 3-bedroom house.
Right.
Yeah. Any particular scenes or anything that you liked from Hidden Fortress, Alex?
I want to say when I don't know his name, but when the other general, the bad one, right?
Yeah.
When he kind of betrays, that clan and goes to the other one to save them, kind of thing.
That was a great scene. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my favorite scene. Definitely. Because it kind of reminded me, right, of Vader coming back to being Anakin.
Yeah. It's funny because he has that giant, because he after being defeated by Makabe, he gets pretty much destroyed by his lord, and like he's all scarred up, and yeah, it is kind of a lot like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of redemption arcs.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the fight scene between those two was really great. The spear fight.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that was the whole scene, like running up to that after when he was chasing down the horses, like on horseback, the other soldiers, and like was just slicing the shit out of them. You actually got to see, like, because before it, it's all just talk, like, okay, he's a general, like, but we don't really actually see him in action. But then we actually see, like, damn, this guy is a real soldier.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, during the fight scene, like, to me, you could kind of see the skill or the technique it takes, because everybody just thinks it's easy and like, hey, just strike them, but it's that, especially if you're messing with somebody who knows what they're doing, like, you better know what you're doing as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like that was part of the challenge. That was part of the challenge because, like, he's such a renowned soldier. Like him trying to come off as a peasant, was extremely hard. Cause, like, even when you look at, I mean, I think the design of Toshio Mifune's character, it's like this guy just looks like he's a fighter. He looks like someone that you don't fuck with. But like, he's like but he's trying to like minimize that, but just like, he's like, you're kind of doing a bad job there, son.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when he's funny, he's still pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
Whoop on you.
But yeah, like for me, like Hidden Fortress, I thought it's not my favorite Kurosawa film, but
Mhm.
it's still it has its moments. I think it's actually like um it's a great movie. I what George Lucas turned it into. Obviously, like we're all Star Wars fans here, and watching initially when it came out, it was just Star Wars. Later on, it became A New Hope.
Mhm.
But it's just that movie's it's just a lot of fun. It's not my favorite Star Wars film. That goes to Empire Strikes Back, as we talked about earlier today. But
Of course.
I just there's a lot of great things in this movie as uh, like I said, Han Solo is my favorite character, and just seeing his growth through the movie, and just how kind of a smartass, but like he's very talented at the same time. And you have Luke Skywalker, who's this kind of fresh faced kid who doesn't really know much about a lot of things, but then he is kind of thrust into the situation, and he ends up becoming the hero. So I mean, it's
Mhm.
just and I love both these movies a lot. I think that if I was gonna say for favorite scenes in A New Hope, I think the scene of them initially coming to the Death Star, like when they're going to Alderaan and then realizing the planet's just not there anymore,
Mhm.
that's intense. But then obviously the final run to destroy the Death Star is also very
Yeah, very
tense and
exciting. Yeah, very exciting.
very exciting. Yeah, especially like when you know it's what was the trying to think of just like what it took, and like General Tarkin was saying, it's like it's like sir, we actually found like they might actually be able to do some damage to us, and it's like, would you care to evacuate? It's like in our moment of triumph. It's like, and it's like right after that, it's like when they start to engage the laser to destroy the moon that the Rebel Alliance is on. It just explodes at that moment. It's just the hubris got the best of General Tarkin.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think like I still think the duel between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, that's still my favorite
That's still
scene.
your favorite?
That's still my favorite scene in at least episode 4. Because yeah,
Yeah,
it's just like because it's the final showdown. It's like, I mean, well, there's rumors of the Kenobi series that's gonna come out in like a year or so. That there's actually gonna be another meeting between Obi-Wan and Vader. So
yeah. That's because that's
if
happened
and
in
it
the comics, I believe.
right, but then if that's true,
Right.
then it's not exact. It's not. It's like the final since that one, because up until I mean, again, this is just kind of a rumor, but you know um,
I get what you're saying though, because that was supposed to be the first time because he didn't feel that force in a while, right? Or
right, yeah, it's only when like when he was in proximity that he's like like, oh, that I haven't felt this. I haven't felt this presence since, and he's kind of like, doesn't finish his sentence. It's like
In
since,
a long, yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, but it's
and
like, yes,
well,
but probably like, before the Kenobi series comes out, it probably means like since Mustafar. Um,
yeah,
Mhm.
well,
so
because
just like
it
that,
from
just
what
that
I
emotional
understand,
weight of that statement. It's like, oh man, just like they haven't seen each other since Mustafar. All that time, like at least like I think Luke
Imagine.
is supposed to be like what, like 16 or 17 years old.
yeah.
And
Well,
so like,
from from what I understand from the comics, which were canon at one point, I don't they because obviously like Obi-Wan left him to die on Mustafar and thought he
mhm.
was dead, and when he found out that that Darth Vader had survived, there was a confrontation between them. I think like it was several years after the Battle of Mustafar, but then since then, I think there was he had they hadn't seen each other since that. Like battle that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Which is because it kind of leaves it up like I haven't felt that presence since, and you like I said, it just trails off. There's
Mm-hmm.
not really like it's not like a point in time where like he had last seen him at.
Mm-hmm. Right, but then also because how Alex mentioned at the beginning uh, that kind of like that reimagined scene of that fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, and
So much better.
how they use some like the audio from Revenge of the Sith, where it's like I hate you, it's like you were the chosen one, it's like
Yeah,
hitting really hitting you in the feels.
dude. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I think too, it just shows that Obi-Wan, even though at his old age, he's still a Jedi. So it
Right.
kind of when it goes back to samurais, I feel like a lot of the times the master of the dojo or whoever it is, they tend to be a lot older, but they're still very effective in their
Right.
techniques, and they can
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if if you've ever watched the Rebel series, um, the kind of the sequel to Clone Wars. But there's this great final duel between Obi Wan and Maul, and
oh
a
yeah.
lot of fans were critical of it because it was like it wasn't like this wide ranging battle. It was like three moves, and then Obi Wan prevails. But ultimately, I think it's better because it just demonstrates Obi Wan's like total mastery, lightsaber dueling, and also of the Force, because it kind of like shows through the visuals, it shows like his mind and how he starts like focus in on what he has to do. He's like, oh, it's like this can't be a long fight. So he initially he does like the two finger with the sword over his head, like his kind of like iconic attack stance. But
Right.
then he's like, no, 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 no. I have to like kind of center myself, and then he brings it. He does like the same kind of stance that Qui Gon does in Phantom Menace. After he gets like, after Qui Gon like is able to focus himself, and he's able to defeat Maul in three moves.
Not only that, though, I don't know if they took into account too, but Maul was searching for him for a while. So take that in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
He was angry. I feel like it's people don't take into account that he was probably exhausted at that point as well. Because that's what I took from it. Because at first I was a little upset, but then I'm just like, well, you know what? He was trying to find him for a while, and like you said, his mastery too. I think is what ultimately did it, but I still enjoyed it. That seems it's a really good scene.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, especially I mean, you've also seen um the voice actor for Maul. He does this great like kind of breakdown of. I mean, I kind of gave like an abridged version of it, but like that was like he kind of goes into like the whole psychology of that fight, and it's like you know um Maul like being consumed by his anger and rage, that he just wants to destroy Obi Wan because he thinks that that's going to give him peace. But in the end, he can only find, like, even in his death, he still couldn't find peace. He still wanted revenge. Saying that when he's about to die, it's like, oh, are you here because of the chosen one? And then Obi Wan's like, yes, I am, and it's like, oh, well, he will get revenge for us. Um, so even in like his death, like he wasn't able to find peace. He was still holding on to that rage and like that anger of being cast aside by Palpatine, and being betrayed by him. So I think it just it there's so there's for people that think that Star Wars is just for kids, or it's as
Yeah.
deep as a frisbee. How wrong are they?
So what I thought was interesting, since you're talking about Maul, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you see the last episodes of Clone Wars, I like how he developed, right? So at first he was just angry, trying to get revenge, and he
Mm-hmm.
still kind of is, right, throughout the whole thing. But I don't know if you realize that he uh, kind of figured out what Palpatine was gonna do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I was just like, okay, that's interesting to
Mm-hmm.
see. I don't know if he got a little sad about it or what happened, but I feel like once he figured it out, he's just like, oh no, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, he like after he figured it out, he just wanted a book, you know. Like
Yeah,
initially, he's like at first he wanted to like try to kind of do the same like kind of temptation thing that Palpatine did to him, or Palpatine does to Anakin, where it's like oh come we can defeat them. But then because Ahsoka's attachment to Anakin, she's like I can't kill Anakin. He's my friend. He's my former master. Um, but like once Maul realizes that he's not going to be able to turn her, it's like oh things are going to go I got to get out of Dodge, and so from that point he's just trying to get away. And you could like and you like understand like the weight of like the dread that he feels for what's about to come. In his like shriek, it's like no, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die.
100%. I feel like he somehow, I don't know how he figured it out, because even with that Obi-Wan scene, right? He figures out like, oh my God, this is the most important place, in the
Mm-hmm.
universe, because
Mm-hmm.
guess who was there,
Yeah.
And I kind of like that, he always figured it out. I don't know how he did it, but you know, interesting character for me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any more thoughts on A New Hope or Hidden Fortress. Alex, did you find it interesting?
So I'm telling you, the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking Star Wars, right? I just wanted
Yeah,
to
you just
like
wanted to see something, recognizable. I get it. Yeah.
But besides those few characters, I think Star Wars it's just a masterpiece on its own,
Mm-hmm.
And if it did, I'm sure it did influence some, and I'm glad it did, because we wouldn't have had what we had today because of it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah,
Right. Because like yeah.
I really like the film on its own. To be honest, Hidden Fortress, it's a good film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and you might the criticism might be like oh Lucas stole from Akira Kurosawa or whatever, but it's just it's just like well then yeah I mean I think we all understand that Star Wars is an amalgamation like it's like structurally it does borrow from Hidden Fortress,
Right.
but then it also like it also was inspired from like those 1940s serials with like
Yeah, like the Flash Gordon serials.
yeah
Yeah.
Flash Gordon or like those like those Treasure Hunter series. Um, so it's just like where's the line between outright ripoff and
Right.
inspiration. I think again I think we might approach that topic for another East versus West movie coming up,
Oh yeah,
but
no. This is not a ripoff. This is definitely this one's an inspiration.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
I think both movies are great. I agree with Alex. So I do lean in this case. I do lean towards the West. I do lean towards Star Wars in this one,
Yeah.
just because I think it's Hidden Fortress is it's a great movie, but like I think what George Lucas did perfected kind of like this that structure and like made it something new that like because we're not talking about like the Hidden Fortress universe, we're talking about Star Wars. It like I said, it's become something that's transcended George Lucas and it's almost become ours in a sense.
mhm.
And so in that case, yeah, I'd have to give the if there was a winner in this, it would have to be Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Again, well, Alex, we usually give a rating out of five. So if you wouldn't mind starting us off, what's your rating for both Hidden Fortress and Star Wars?
All right. I give Fortress I want to say a 4.
All right.
I want to say a 4.
Nice.
Just
Okay.
because for me, I don't know if it's like a more modern thing, but I always expect more for fights. You know what I mean? And although I respect the spear fight and what he did,
Mm-hmm.
I just like all out brawls kind of thing.
Right.
Um, I think that's why. And then the right C3PO and R2D2. Although I see his influence, right, comedic relief and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't get over the fact that they were so greedy until the end.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I tried, you know, I really try. Um, but yeah, I think that's for four. But like, I mean, scenery, story wise, it's good all around. It's just as like it's not perfect kind of thing.
Mm,
And I feel like with Star Wars, I don't want to say a five either. I want to say a four too, but I really want to say a five. I
okay.
just won't. But dude, like reimagine. I guess the tech wasn't there yet, but
Hmm.
like going back to the Obi-Wan scene, can you imagine seeing that back then?
Yeah, no,
Oh God, I would have loved to have
I
seen.
want a cut of New Hope with that in there. Yeah,
Can you
I'm
imagine?
totally there with you.
Like, like I said, I think it was the tech, right? They didn't have it back then, but
Right.
also for me, when I think of a Jedi, right, I just think about all like battles and things like that. But I think Star Wars still does it for me a lot better
Mm, mm.
than Hidden
Oh,
Fortress.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. What about you?
I'm actually like I said, this is not my favorite Kurosawa film. It's
Hmm.
to me, it's like a 3.5. Like it's enjoyable. It's great.
Hmm.
Um, and with A New Hope, um, I'd probably that's the thing. It's like I feel like Al in this one, like where it's I wanna say five, but I'll give it like a 4.5. Just you know, because like I said, New Hope is not my favorite one.
Hmm.
That goes to Empire. That's a five for me.
Hmm.
But New Hope is great on it in its own right.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, Hidden Fortress, it's great. I like the characters. I think just kind of the to me it feels like you're people that are trying to escape from this tyrannical uh country to like they're pretty much destitute. So, so you see a lot of that from like what they did in New Hope, and
Hmm.
Star Wars I think perfected the idea of what Hidden Fortress was trying to do.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, yeah. Funny enough, I know it's a running joke on our podcast, but how me and Rob think alike. But yeah, I'm in complete agreement with Rob. Hidden Fortress is a 3.5 for me as well. Again, not yeah, the same. It's kind of like the same reasons. It's not my favorite Kurosawa film. I respect it for what it is. And yeah, for Star Wars, I love it. It's the movie that's start that kicked off everything else. Like and again, yeah, Empire is my favorite movie as well. So yeah, I just can't give it like that perfect five rating. I have to give it a 4.5.
All right.
All
All
right, well,
right.
Alex, thanks for coming on, man. You spend all day, all of May the 4th with us.
Yeah, seriously.
I'll be back. Don't worry.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna
Yeah.
be
This
back
isn't
for
the last time you're seeing gay Alex.
Might be straight Alex next time.
Yeah,
Who
I
knows?
know. All right, folks. There you have it. That's our review for Hidden Fortress and Star Wars. Alex gives Hidden Fortress a 4. Me and Robert gave it a 3.5. Alex gives Star Wars a 5. Both Rob and I give it a 4.5. Definitely recommend these movies. You should watch them. Um, I know in a world where John Wick is a thing, and and we have like these crazy like tightly choreographed fight scenes. Uh, Hidden Fortress is still worth it. I would say
Oh, 100%.
it's still worth it. Just for, like, for the story itself alone is worth it.
I
And
agree.
so is Star Wars: A New Hope. I mean, yeah, I know the duel between Vader and Obi-Wan isn't as fantastical and sensational as say the prequel trilogies, but I think narratively, I think it tells a very important story in and of itself. All right, folks. Yeah, don't forget to thanks for joining us. Don't forget to check out the library of other content we have. The Circular Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course. Don't forget to check out if you're into old school, NES games. Don't forget to check out Rob's gaming show Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter and LetterboxD at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, thank you for joining us, and we'll do it all again next week.